You are in the Where's Huddle with me, Bram, and with me, per usual, my master of all things video and sound, Maxime,
How's it going?
and my boy and producer, MT.
What's up, Dub Nation?
Gentlemen, quick episode today. We've got our draft guru, our expert, Krysten Peek, coming in on Friday. I'm chomping at the bit for that one. She has been telling me over the last 2 or 3 weeks that this draft is the deepest she's covered over the last 10 to 15 years. Maybe we'll have a dog in that fight. We'll talk about that in a second. So we've got a big podcast coming towards the end of the week. So we'll save some takes. But we also didn't record one last week. I missed you boys. I felt a little guilty about not putting content out into the world. So here we are. Before we get to the glass half full, which really is the only segment we'll do before we start waiting for Krysten, let me ask this. How'd you guys spend last week? If you weren't recording about the Warriors, what did you do, man? Any big things? What can we bring the audience up on?
I actually got to go to the game against the Nuggets, which was interesting. So still spent it talking about the Dubs in some way. But it was trippy because you watch the game and appreciate what Joker does on the floor, but it did not feel like he had 35 and 20 and 12, whatever he ended up with. It wasn't a 35 and 20 game for sure. Like I looked up and I was like, really? He has all of that? So, I mean, he's an interesting player, obviously, and super talented, but it's so easy to him. It was really interesting to see those numbers jump out and you're watching the game and it didn't seem like it was like if he easily gets a 35, 20, and 12 type of game that way, and it's like a quiet 35, 20, and 12, it's like, oh man, this dude, for being not very athletic, is really impressive.
I was just about to say, so least original take of all time, but I'll throw it out there anyways. This fool, like watching him play and, hedge in the conversation for greatest basketball player on earth right now, probably having his most impressive season. And, he fucking destroyed us. Triple-double, casual 30-point triple-double, and probably could have scored a lot more. So all of that in tow. Here's my unoriginal take. It's not just that when he plays, he looks unathletic. It's everything he does. He complains to the ref in an unathletic way. He goes to the huddle unathletically. He sits down on the bench in a way that's like, I think he's hurt. Like, why does he move that? Everything he is doing screams, well, that's not a professional athlete. And then you look at the fucking box score, and it's not just that he's a professional athlete. He's the best of all the professional athletes who are on the floor at any given time. So, yeah, I mean, I wasn't in building, but I definitely noticed that too.
Yeah, he did this little like warm-up sprint. You know how Steph sprints to the stanchion like right before the game starts? Like he did that same thing. I don't know if it's what he always does, but he did the same thing, like diagonal across the half court where they were warming up, and my first reaction was, that guy's not very athletic at all. Oh wait, that's Joker. Like, oh my goodness.
Like, how did that guy get on the floor? There's like, that's some dude. We got to the game. We won't talk about the All-Star game. It's been too far, but I will add this because it fits into the Joker thing. So like one of the successes I thought of the All-Star game is that they had people who gave a fuck. Like, so, there was competition. People were playing defense. They wanted to have wins. And I think one of the rationale behind that was the inclusion of the world team. The U.S. didn't want to lose to the fucking world team. So maybe they got motivated. I can tell you who was not motivated by that. Motherfucking Jokic. He spent that entire All-Star game with an expression that suggested, oh, I don't give one fuck about this. It's like, I'm not sure why I'm here. I don't know. Like, it's the kind of thing where I'm invited to a party I don't want to be at, but I have to show up. It's like, so whatever conversations I need to have in order for it to be okay to leave, let's just get that out of the way now. He was like, how many minutes do I have to play before you'll just let me the fuck out of here? Because I do not want to be here at all. Maxime, what'd you do last week?
Yeah, well, it is sort of, last year, Jokic calling out Wemby for bringing a book, right? I feel like Wemby's like, that's what I do before every game. And Jokic is like, this isn't a game. Who gives a shit about the All-Star game? So, Jokic continues to dominate with an ease that is a little bit uncomfortable to watch. I was down visiting family, but what I will say to tie it into basketball, I'm sure you guys saw all the layoffs that happened to the Washington Post, closing down their whole sports desk last week. So turning my segment about what I did last week into a shout out for a friend of the podcast, Ben Golliver, who just started his own Substack.
Oh, shit.
I subscribe to that, and it's dope, especially because he is writing about a bunch of stuff that he wouldn't normally write about when he's employed by somebody like the Washington Post. So you get a lot of backstories on, the lockout and other shit like his love of Legos and whatever, but it is pretty basketball focused. I would recommend that everybody go check that out. And support a guy who is currently in between jobs, probably doing fine, and is almost certainly going to have a new job very soon, and already has the Greatest of All Talk podcast. So not super problematic there, but it is a fun subscribe.
This podcast is brought to you by Ben Golliver's Substack. Got to get out there, subscribe, hit the like button, all the things that you do with Substacks. I'm not sure since I don't follow any of them, but I will. For Ben Golliver's, I went to San Diego, boys. No basketball relation there, but I tell you what, I'll try to make up with that by telling you an embarrassing umbrella story. So went with the family. Last week was marked by rain and kind of nasty weather throughout the Bay Area, and that was true for SoCal too. Didn't hit us too bad, although the one day we went to the San Diego Zoo, it ended up raining fucking nastily. And before it starts raining, before it's like really coming down and it's kind of threatening, Erica and Kylie, my wife and kid, go into the store and they buy 2 umbrellas. They're not even that expensive. They're like $7.50. But because marriage is hard and I'm a cheap fuck, I'm like, that's a ridiculous waste of money. Like, I don't know why the hell you would do that. We certainly don't need 2, and I'm not going to buy one. Fuck you. Fast forward 8 or 9 minutes, it's a torrential downpour. Like Noah was somewhere building an ark. Fucking like it was nasty. And I've now gone out of my way to be like, those umbrellas are hella stupid. You shouldn't have bought them. So if they had like camera footage of us being in the fucking zoo, you'd see my wife walking as slow as anyone's ever walked ever, because she wants to rub my fucking nose in it. My kid just walking next to her, and then me way ahead, sprinting from awning to awning, like, oh, I'll stand here because I'm an idiot, dude. And it was what it was. So fuck umbrellas, and I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It wasn't the best of times.
Were you running unathletically like Joker would?
Yes, I was, and didn't have a triple-double to show for it. Just had, so it was day 2 of a 4-day vacation. The decision was so bad, my shoes got soaked, and I only brought 1 pair. So the next 3 or 4 days, just constant reminder of you're an asshole. Just deep asshole. And Erica, knowing that I wouldn't even buy the umbrella, suggested maybe you should just buy some new shoes as an extra fuck you. To the Warriors, gentlemen. We only really have one segment here, and it is our glass half full. You guys remember it? We do it every week. We look back at recent Warriors hoop. We got a couple of weeks to play with. Give me something you like or don't or both. I'm happy to play cleanup. What do you guys got?
I'll jump in and give you both in one person, a tale of 2 Pajemskis. I think now that Kuminga is no longer in the fan base, the fan base is going to turn on Pajemski as they have periodically. But I think it's pretty interesting that over the past 2 games, not that our win and loss rides on him in perpetuity, but over these last 2 games, I think he was instrumental in each. Shout out to Dieter Kurtenbach for writing a really, really good piece after yeah, that's right. And he had an interesting take about how instrumental Pajemski was in sort of moving off ball like Steph Curry in mounting a 4th quarter comeback, going 6 for 6, right? Really kind of doing all of the stuff that you need to do to be the type of fulcrum that unlocks the offense by not playing on the ball. Super cool. And then in the Pelicans game, he goes right back to kind of doing the pound the rock, kind of pretending to be the person in charge of the game. What's frustrating is you could tell that this is how Steve Kerr wants him to play. He was elated. And then in the post game after the Denver game, they asked Pajemski what's going on. He's like, I have really high IQ. I'm just doing what I need to do. Like, it's not, I will do what needs to be done for the game to win. It's like, oh, you've learned nothing. You don't actually see this as valuable. You just did it in that moment for some reason, right? So same amount of points scored. It's like he's went 18 points versus 16 in the New Orleans game. Same amount of total rebounds, and then yet the plus minus is like the exact opposite opposite end of the spectrum. In one, it's a huge win. It's a triumphant win against Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. And in the other, it's a flop loss against New Orleans. And it's really frustrating to me to watch a guy who, by all accounts, thinks he's intelligent and yet continues to kind of do baffling things about not sort of playing within the system that clearly shows benefits when he does it. So for me, it's glass half full, Brandon Podziemski, off-ball combo guard. Glass half empty, Brandon Podziemski, point guard, that is only good in his own mind.
MT, do you think Podziemski is aware of, I don't even know how to phrase it, the status that he enjoys amongst Warriors fans? That, that he's this kind of lightning rod of either I fucking hate him or he's great or not. Because I guarantee you his dad is. I don't, I haven't talked to him about it, but I'm sure his father's on social media and just going through every single positive, negative, all the takes. Pods, it wouldn't shock me if he read it constantly or if he thought he was so fucking good he didn't need to read the media. So yeah, what do you think? What's your take here?
I think he doesn't read it constantly, but he gets updates constantly from it, and it impacts him. I think you can just kind of tell he goes up and down. His play is up and down, and it matches kind of the hype or the criticism that he goes through. So, he had a great game against Denver and, was feeling himself. And then, to Maxime's point, had similar stat lines, but the wrong kind of impact. And, we'll see how he responds to having an off game. But I think he hears it all and follows it all, but it's coming at him from sources like his family and friends versus him just staying on a burner account like KD.
That burner shit we got to talk about at some point.
Oh,
it is insanely entertaining. As far as Podziemski's concerned, and we don't have to get too sidetracked with him again. So in fact, I'll keep the mic empty. Something you like, something you don't from recent Warriors.
It's all the same. So glass half full is our center shooting and our glass half empty is our center shooting. So, I don't know what Kristaps was doing, but for him to come in, play a game, and then have a serious illness that Steve Kerr said that, this is very serious, and now he can't play again. It's like, dude, what is going on? But, whatever. He caught something. So hopefully he feels better. But it was great to see Al Horford hit threes and kind of start the game the way he did. And, obviously we jump out to a lead and hold it against Denver because of him and other reasons. But the opposite of that, half empty, is where is Quentin Post's shot gone? Like, he is just, you look at the stats, he's 0 for 4 and 0 for 4 and 0 for 3. And, it was rough. You can tell his confidence isn't there, and it's hard to watch because he's a young enough player that matters. He's not just going to shoot his way through it. When he shoots it, it doesn't even look like he believes it's going to go in.
Yep.
If that's true, then it's never going to go in.
Yeah, there's a couple of sequences in the loss to New Orleans where he missed 2 shots in rapid succession. One was within the key, and the second one he missed, he didn't even follow it up. His entire body deflated. And like that, you see that amongst people who have lost confidence in themselves. I have had that body posture before, and so it's not the best of looks. All right, I've got some don'ts. And so first, I'm going to get some things I do like in hopes of sounding optimistic. Right? I've always broadcasted myself as a homer, so let me try to be a homer for a couple of takes here. One thing I liked up front, Moses's quiet competency last 6 games. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Here's his totals: 24, 23, 11, 17, 15, 25. And throughout all of those, all impressive point outings, he shot over 50% from the field throughout that stretch of games. So impressive. He's not going to make a whole lot of all-star games over his career, but he brings it every night. In a season defined by inconsistency, he has been consistently competent. So props to him. Similar take. Guy's surge specific on the offensive end. Here's his last 7 games. 15, 17, 17, 9, 16, 15, 18. He's playing. If I remember the first summer league game I watched that he joined the Warriors on. And at no point did I think, you know what he'll do over a 7-game stretch, average more than 15 points per game. I did not think that. So here we are. And he's playing better. Like both of those things. All right. That's all the likes I have, gentlemen.
Oh, no.
Fucking ones I don't. Okay. I don't like that the Warriors can beat a team that every fucking NBA expert out there will call a contender, and one night then turn around and lose to a team that every single one of those experts would say are dog shit in New Orleans. So the Denver, New Orleans 2-step was hard to take. I don't like that Porzingis has now already missed more games than he has played in as a Golden State Warrior with an injury whose only description has been quote unquote serious. The fuck does that mean? What's the illness? How did he play in that first game? What's going on with this dude's body, man? I don't like that. I'm not surprised that has happened. Here's another thing I don't like. I don't like that fucking Jonathan Kuminga scored 27 in his debut for the Atlanta Hawks. I did some research. Okay. Here are the last 10 games for Jonathan Kuminga's game log. 0 minutes, 0 points, 0 assists, 0 rebounds with Golden State. 0, 0, 0, 0 with Golden State. 0, 0, 0, 0 with Golden State. Just I was going to do this as a gimmick 7 times in a row. He does that 9 times in a row. 0, 0, 0, 0. 9 times in a row. Over and over and over again. Then in the 10th game, 24 minutes, 27 points on 9 of 12 shooting, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. So is Jonathan Kuminga going to shoot 75% for the remainder of his career? No. But did he show that he can probably contribute to an NBA team? Yeah. And is that frustrating as fuck? Yes, it is. And we've been talking about that frustration for quite some time. And in fact, here, let's put the two things I don't like together and give you guys a question. One for Matty Stats. All right. What number will be higher going forward for the rest of this year? Will JK score 20 or more and for the Hawks versus how many games Porzingis just plays basketball for Golden State? Right? So on one side, the games JK scores 20 or more. On the other side, the games Porzingis just plays. No point total, no minute, nothing. He's just on the floor. Which one do you guys take? Right now, for example, it is 1-1. Kuminga's got 27 and Porzingis has got 1 game played.
I'm giving the edge to Kuminga, but I do think that that's not an indication of where we're going long term. I mean, look, we all knew that this was going to happen with Porzingis. It's really not a surprise. But I also am not surprised that Kuminga is showing out. I think he's going to be, frankly, an excellent tank commander. I don't see this translating to huge postseason success. I see this being the result of him being very frustrated and trying to show the NBA community that he is worth more than what Steve Kerr was giving him credit for. But I think it's going to sink back to the mean, and the mean is somebody who is not incredibly effective outside of some ISO work. I'm not that concerned. And in fact, I spent a lot of time deleting comments that I almost submitted within the Atlanta Hawks subreddit, trying to explain to people that this isn't actually as great as you think it is. And then I said, you know what, I have better things to do with my time. So I didn't get into any fights, but I don't think that it's going to be that great come the 26-27 season.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I think Porzingis plays more games. I know he's out right now, and that's his track record. And you know, I may just be trying to will this into the universe, but I think once Steph gets back with his runner's knee fully healthy, I think they're going to make a late push to try to get that 7 or 6 seed because it's still there. Mm-hmm. You know, like Phoenix is slipping a little bit. Minnesota's kind of up and down. Who knows what happens with the Lakers? But I think there's enough reason to still play, and for that Porzingis will play. And then if at nothing else, then it's just to make sure that they reestablish some value for him and see what they can get in a trade in the offseason.
I think it's going to be so. You know, obviously, the question is a little tongue in cheek, and Maxime, I agree with you. If what we're worried about is Golden State winning another championship, then it's not what happens the rest of this season. Is what happens over the remainder of the career. And we've talked about our concerns with where JK goes. So it's just a fun question to ask. for the actual answer to the question, I think it's a lot closer than I would like it to be. I really do. I think it's going to be like kind of a nail biter. I just on general principle, fuck, you got to go Porzingis. He is a professional basketball player. You'd hope that he can play professional basketball occasionally. But if this was like money, if we had to bet something significant to me, I would stay away. I would not bet either way because neither feels like a guarantee at all.
Does this change it at all? The Kuminga had a great game, but who did he have it against? The Washington Wizards. Not necessarily a strong team,
Sure.
Probably one of the worst teams in the league, and their defense is, I think it's third worst in the league. So, does Kuminga do that against stronger defenses? Maybe to Maxime's point, it's, regresses to the mean a little bit, and he sits at 17 points, and Maddie Stats gives me a point.
I hope you're right, but to unnecessarily hedge the other way, if I wanted to explain why maybe the Kuminga bet would be better, these missed games are on the other side of the fucking All-Star break. And it was right after we read an article that said, oh, he's playing. Don't worry. The wait till after the All-Star, he's definitely going to play in the first game. He did, and then he just hasn't played since. Like, it was just the first game that he was fucking definitely going to play in. Like, there's a lot of other games here, man. Like, what's happening?
I think you need to respect what a serious illness means.
I think so. No, that's fair. That's okay. Exactly right. I'd like to know what it means. And they have given us no details. But I tell you what, because both Maxime and UMT have kind of put up the two ends of a spectrum for a question I was not going to ask, but I'll ask it. So I said only glass half full. That was a lie. Here's a golden question, gentlemen. Should the Warriors tank the rest of the year? All right. So a little bit of background so that you can consider it. Warriors are right now 30-28, currently 8th in the West. They're 2.5 games ahead of Portland. They're also only 1 game out of the lottery right now. They are the 15th worst team in the NBA record-wise. And looking a little bit further, this is just towards a tank analysis, right? They're only 1 game better than Atlanta, 2 games better than Charlotte, 2.5 games better than Portland and LA or the Clips, 5 games better than Milwaukee, 6 games better than Chicago. A long way of saying if they just sat everybody, sat Porzingis, sat Steph, purposely tried to lose some of these games, there's a real world where they could probably get into the 9th slot right around, and then who knows what happens with the lottery. But perhaps a top 10 pick and a very loaded draft. As I mentioned earlier, Krysten Peek said this is the deepest draft that she's covered over the last 10 to 15 fucking years. So with that as an idea, should they tank? If it was up to you, what would you say? And if either of you want to go first, go ahead.
Do we get to keep our pick? I forget. We have our pick no matter where it lands.
This is, our pick is ours for sure.
Ooh, he's thinking about it.
Yeah, I was giving that context to buy time, so Maxime, you could go, and then I could think about it.
I'll go with a cop-out answer. I'd ask Steph. This is the thing I keep asking over and over again. If Steph is hell-bent on, nope, I do not want to waste a moment of my career. I'm still here. I want to see who I can be with Porzingis. I don't give a fuck if it ends in a play-in loss. Let me out there, then we do it. We do it for sure. If Steph doesn't care and they're asking just me, do I tank? Fuck yes, I tank. Hard tank. From what I can tell, the pipe dream upside of this team right now is what? 2nd round appearance? There's a really great chance we're going to be in the play-in. Let's say we somehow get through that. We then face, I don't know who. If it's a play-in, it's probably a top 4 team. So you're talking Denver or OKC or Minnesota. We're talking about the big boys. And if there's some miracle we get through that, which I would be hard pressed to imagine, we then run into another contender on the other side in the 2nd round. So would I want to take miles off of Steph's odometer, right? Continue to play him hard to probably lose in the 2nd round versus save whatever we can from his legs and then add a top 10 pick into things that we can play around with to make us better next year, trade that, you know what I mean? That's the direction I would go. And I'll add to this, one of the things I don't like, I don't know what to root for right now. Like when I'm watching these games, like I enjoy watching the hoops, so they've got me, but I'm not sure, like I'm certainly not rooting for a title, like that's not where they're heading. And so what am I rooting for? Am I hoping they just get to the second round? Like that's what's up. It's been hard. It's been a hard thing for me to wrap my head around. So that's where I'm at. If Steph says go for it, we go for it. If he doesn't, I'm out of tank.
So I mean, I agree with you, except that I think that there's very little chance that Steph wants to go for it right now. You guys are season ticket holders. You probably got Jimmy's email where he's like, hey, we're going to be around next season. Like it's clear that the franchises in general consciously punting on this one. If Porzingis is going to be out for a ton of the season, which we all kind of expect him to be, there's just not enough juice for this to really matter. But I will say, so I think we tank, because even the 10th overall pick is a very valuable asset. And hopefully Joe Lacob has been convinced that the 2 timelines approach is not something that we should pursue yet again. And so we'd be willing to package that in for something to help, maybe with packaging it with Porzingis to get us something in the offseason, something like that. But I got to say, it may be more difficult to tank than it is to win a championship. I don't know if you guys have been watching, right? The Kings are figuring out every single possible way to get players on the injury reports. Yusuf Nurkic just basically is going to get a nose job to take him out for the season. I mean, like the bottom of the league is doing some really creative shit to make sure that they get those picks. So I don't know that it's going to be easy to get. It might actually be easier to just make a run to the finals.
It's why we're not going to get past 9. We're just not.
Right.
I mean, Utah came up with an electric surgery for Triple J.
Crazy.
So, I mean, we're not catching the Memphises and the Sacramento. Like those guys have beaten us to this punch. But we can still slip into the top 10. And as Dallas taught us a year ago, that could still become the first pick. It's not likely, but it can happen. All right, MT, we talk into it.
I think we already made that decision right when Steph got hurt, and we just haven't said anything. But I think we're already in tank mode.
Yep.
I think his runner's knee, if he wanted to play, he would have, and we were in the hunt, he would have came back already. And these mysterious illnesses and everything else. Like I think winning the Denver game was just random. You expect to win it, and like probably didn't want to win that game.
And they got it back with the New Orleans loss. They're like,
exactly, but I don't think we tank to get the pick and keep it. I think we tank to get the pick and package it in a trade and get a player back that fits the Steph timeline. So yes, I think we tank. I think we're already doing it, but to package it for an off-season move.
I agree with you. And I think it's the kindest view of the Porzingis trade, is that if that's what they were trying to do is lose games, then taking a person whose contract comes off the books next year and who's not going to play for you helps in the, in the overall tank analysis. So maybe he's sly like a fox. This motherfucker is a couple steps ahead and we just didn't even see it. All right. I appreciate you boys. Missed you. Great to have you back. If you are out there, you want to get us a take, let us know we did a good job, bad job, any job. You can shoot us an email to
huddle@warriorshuddle.com.
Yeah, if you're looking for a very nice selection of umbrellas, I can suggest the San Diego Zoo. It's, and the really useful there too. With that in mind, look for a second episode from us on Friday to both make up for last week's absence, but more importantly, KP is one of my favorite guests, and something tells me that she will not disappoint, and maybe next year's draft is a lot more important than we thought it would be. So you may want to learn all about it. With that in mind, go Warriors. Hopefully, see you real soon.